All right, thanks. Thanks all. And we hope to slightly uncover and unravel, unpack the report for all of you in the next 8 to 10 minutes. It's been an exciting event for us to run up to. I think the report, the way we had thought about was the field of AI in retail obviously has tremendous amount of opportunity. What we wanted to look at and unravel for us was really how far has AI in retail really developed, right? And what are the next frontiers of opportunities? Where are folks finding it difficult to go forward? What can we do, of course, as an ecosystem to support and see this growth going forward? So broadly, we looked at 5 major areas to talk about. First and foremost, as we said, where is the maturity of this industry? We have seen and heard a lot since the start of this event already about how retail and AI in retail is the future of where the retail sector is going. So has it really crossed the frontiers of maturity? Is it at evolved stage where it is more and more getting iterative and refined, or is it in the early stages of trying to figure out the next frontiers and trying to dabble with new use cases and get them right? So where is it? What functions are being highly prioritized by the sector across the middle, front, middle, and back office of an organization? What outcomes, and broadly 3 outcome types that we looked at. So is it efficiency, is it effectiveness, is it differentiation? Where is AI being sought after most in a retail atmosphere? And what kind of use cases are being discussed and developed in each of these spaces, right? What is the typical pathway? Because AI, not only in retail, and we do a lot of consulting across different areas, retail, consumer, and many other spaces. And we see this as one of the most important questions that every sector is dabbling with. AI is so democratized in its approach, but when it comes inside the organization and an organization has to really dabble with it, then the pathways are too many, and it's not very clear how to really find your own pathway. And finally, and most importantly, what are some of the challenges still and enablers hence to unlock those challenges that are important to unlock the real potential of AI going forward? So these are the 5 key questions. And I'll try and give you a sneak peek. There are some very interesting answers. There were some very obvious answers. For example, AI is the next best thing. Yes, whoever we talked to essentially talked about, yes, we are dabbling with AI. AI is going to open up new frontiers. We have to be there. Others are moving ahead of us, so on and so forth. But when we looked at the other side, the not so obvious is that, frankly, a lot of the people are still at the early stage of the journey, which is very surprising, especially given that the sector has tremendous need as well as opportunity to actually engage with AI. So that's just one sneak peek. Similarly, for example, the report also talks about, is it universally being applied across the organization? Very surprisingly, especially given the complexity of this sector in the middle and the back, which means supply chain and beyond. But the AI's use cases most prominent are still in the front. The maturity is still at the front and not the middle and the back, which is very interesting for many of us as we read the report. So here and more, we'll talk about it as we go forward. To make sure that the report is comprehensive, we also tried to cover an expanse of the type of retailer profiles for all of us. So starting with the first one, where is AI in retail today? We find, as we just mentioned, it's still a huge cusp is still at the initial stage. That innovations are just about triggered. That's the most, the most prominent of the hump, as you see in this adoption curve, right? There are, of course, some which have the early adopters which have moved into early wins and beyond. The beyond is basically, as you would expect, usual suspects, e-commerce, omni-channel. But more traditional retail is still in the first hump, which is just about started with initiatives, dabbling with them. Innovation is just about triggered. Some, to be honest, have also talked about when we did, surveyed, got a bit disillusioned, right? And for various reasons, and we'll talk about it in the challenges sections as well. But we still see that the adoption curve is in the first and the second or the third stage and not beyond, which is very, very interesting on one side, but at the other side, it is also a bit surprising for us for sure. Now, within that whole scheme of things, as we started to talk about, where in the organization do we see the most use for AI? What do our surveys talk about. Most of them actually said that most important are your front office functions. I think in the day, and if many of you have sat through the last two sessions, especially, I think the panel before where Shiv and Harish were talking about resonates with this for sure. That retail is all about knowing the customer, and hence the front office functions are the most invested when it comes to AI. But at the same time, retail, and we also, I think, heard about it in the earlier panels, is as much about making sure the supply chains support that experience, and hence AI should have immense amount of opportunities in the middle and the back, but we don't see them as much happening, right? So most of the concentration is in sales, marketing, customer insight, customer orchestration, and those are the priority functions that we have seen. Now, does it mean that those have been the first to go, and it's an early adopter, progress, and the next functions are going to come in the next wave of, transformation? Unfortunately, we have not yet heard as much yet, right? So I think it's still unraveling, and it isn't about a sequence of events and a sequence of functions, but it probably could be a choice for a longer time. But I think the time will tell a bit more about it as we go forward. The mature ones amongst them, of course, have crossed the third and the fourth stage, as we said, and they have prioritized again the front office functions, and they've actually reiterated. So folks who have gone into hyper-personalization, folks who have gone into orchestration, folks who have gone into human-led experiences through AI, are further reinvesting in the same areas with more use cases. So that's another trend that we are seeing. Instead of moving to newer functions and newer use cases, they're actually refining the ones that they started with new technology, with new investments going behind. So that's very interesting. A whole set of other retailers, what we saw was we're dabbling with many at a time. And so they need probably a set of specific use cases and focus to go after, rather than trying to take the whole set of use cases across the entire organization and try and make the most out of it. So these are very interesting and very different and divergent priority approaches. Some taking a very consistent approach and reiterating, some taking a very kind of spread, carpet spreading across all the functions, and some actually still trying to dabble with one or two at this at a time. When you double click on it, and within those priority functions, so what does this tell us? What kind of maturity do we see even in the prioritized functions? What we see essentially is that while they are prioritizing a sales, a marketing, an orchestration, they still have very limited use cases that they are dabbling with within those. So e-commerce and omni-channel players are way ahead in the AI adoption cycle, but the others are primarily focusing on, for example, assortment management, or they are looking at very specific use cases in orchestration, and the entire spread in that is also not yet covered.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, very interestingly, assortment management, which most retailers would agree is a core capability for any retailer today. Having the right assortment mix, I think one of the previous panels was also talking about how do we localize and personalize assortments to meet the target segment that that particular store or brand is trying to cater to, appears a bit deprioritized. Given the nature of data that would be available and the data partnerships available today at scale, we feel it's a fairly missed opportunity. And there are still retailers, decent brand names, who have yet to start the journey, either due to paucity of data itself or the organizational push to leverage this new technology. Yeah, very interestingly, so we looked at outcomes that retailers are seeking for across efficiency, which is more around how do I do things better, faster, effectiveness, how do I achieve better outcomes, and 3, does something give me a differentiating advantage or a competitive advantage in the market. Interestingly, here also, in areas like efficiency, it's again marketing, sales, and service that find prominence. And traditional areas within the organization around supply chain, procurement, which are classic levers of efficiency in the organization, are typically ignored. And of course, marketing and consumer insights, people believe, will give them the differentiating edge, will help their brand stand out, and create that eventual pull for their own organization. Yeah. In terms of quick use cases, what kind of use cases are folks prioritizing? So if you look at consumer insights, it'll be areas like deeper sentiment analysis. In areas of CX orchestration, it's around identifying what's the journey like today in real time and suggesting the next best action so that I get better outcomes in the purchase or the service cycles. When it comes to sales and service, it's more around how do I hyper-personalize the offers that I'm sharing with the customer, what kind of dynamic promotions am I using, and eventually in service, it's more about what kind of efficiency am I actually gaining in terms of engaging with the customer. What we definitely see when we look at details of the data is that retailers are looking at point solutions and maybe not integrating across all these 3 or 4 functions to find a unifying solution that further enhances the quality of outcomes in each of these stages.
And when it comes to how our organization actually enabling AI as a change, because AI isn't one solution, AI is an entire culture, of adopting for the new, going forward. We see that what is expected is it is embedded in the entire organization. Every function and every team member within the function is actually able to engage with AI in a democratized manner. It is happening in some shape or form, but to be honest, what the survey tells us is it is still heavily top driven. The role of the leadership, while it should be significant at the start to trigger the innovation, actually consistently stays important to make sure that it actually sees the day of the light as well. So I think the entire maturity of not only the solutions themselves, but the ability to find pathways inside the organization to see it through also has to evolve.
Yeah. I think some of the usual suspects in terms of challenges are typically data. But what we do realize is retailers are very cognizant of the kind of ROI they can expect from AI solutions, but not really sure of how to measure them once the AI solution has been implemented and is progressing. Traditional barriers around people typically do not exist. The only barrier that exists is what kind of workforce can I access very quickly and upskill my people on these technologies. Yeah. Last point that we wanted to leave with all of you is how do I embark on this journey and what considerations do I take into place when I'm actually implementing an AI solution. The first is think about the priorities. One is business priority and the efficacy of use cases that I'm actually embarking on. If a particular use case seems very attractive but does not have proven capabilities, you might as well be better served to actually look at proven use cases and using the benefits realized from that particular use case and then funnel them into some of these more experimental use cases and attractive sounding use cases. The second is how do I look for the best fit? Is this particular use case right for me? Depends on what kind of target customers am I engaging. Are people coming to me and what stage of the journey are people actually coming to either my outlet or my brand? Second is what's my goal? And third is what kind of ecosystem partners am I engaging with right across the value chain, and it could be outside as well, such as third-party data providers. Third is how fit is my organization when it comes to data, right? Without accurate, integrated data, AI solutions will have very limited efficacies. So clearly prioritizing and embedding a culture of capturing and enriching data as we go along becomes critical. However, if you feel that today the quality of data or the interoperability of data that I have is very limited, you might be well served to look at solutions that do not rely on existing data, but can start capturing and running from day one. The fourth is, like we've seen, the mature players are not limiting themselves to say, hey, I've implemented this, let it remain. They are continuing to invest and evolve those solutions by enriching both the data and the quality of the solution itself, getting better outcomes. And the last and final one, I think this was touched upon by one of the panelists. If you're looking for differentiation from particular use cases or let's say AI solutions, it is imperative that we consider whether we outsource this as a COTS product, because then your differentiation is destroyed. But if you are looking for differentiation, then it might be better served to in-source it, at least build the capabilities along the way as you're implementing it the first time. So that's about it. We hope you enjoy the read for those who have the report. And thank you so much.